morning, everyone. So it's a great pleasure to be here and to say a few words on the European ambitions, as Elisabeth put it. So as you might know, in 2016 we published the Gigabit Society Communication. It's more or less the strategy for connectivity, so setting the targets and defining a number of actions. Also then, of course, attached to that the important legislative framework that was proposed and now has been agreed. So coming to the targets, first, as you know, we have now both fixed and mobile targets that, of course, are complementary and consistent. You might remember in the old days, a digital agenda for Europe, we had mainly household-based targets where we defined ambitions for coverage of broadband networks and the take-up. While in this case, we're looking both at households and also mobile connectivity. So it's the first time that we have also mobile targets. On the household side, there's one target, say, broadband for everyone, so 100 megabit for everyone, that's one. And then for the other one, we don't say fiber everywhere. We know that will take a bit of time. We say, let's focus on the socio-economic drivers, and from there, stimulate rollout of fiber and high-speed broadband communications. So socio-economic drivers can be business parks, can be schools, hospitals, and so on. So, and from there, once we reach there, even in a village, for example, to connect, we can then, of course, expect that everyone around will also be connected soon. So that's for the household side, and then, of course, complementary to that, the first time we also have the so-called 5G targets. 5G targets, first thing, as we all know, in this global race to 5G market introduction, we don't want to be late. Maybe we don't need to be the first, but at least don't want to be late. So we say 2020 we want to see commercial launch all over Europe. We say in one city per Europe, per member state. And then we see between 2020 and 2025 the comprehensive rollout of 5G. Mainly focusing first on urban areas, so having all cities connected with 5G, and the main transport paths. But we go further. We also say we don't want only 5G in these areas. We also want mobile connectivity everywhere where it makes sense, meaning wherever people are living, working, gathering, or traveling. So this is a further ambition that we also define in this strategy. So this, of course, leads us then to a number of actions that we define, talking about 5G, in the 5G action plan that was attached to this overall strategy, where we mainly say where we need to advance is in spectrum. Yeah? We need to be ready to have the resources available so that real 5G services can actually be introduced soon. We're looking at things like small cells, and there we, of course, come immediately to the fiber aspects, so making possible that small cells can be deployed, so removing authorization barriers, and then also, of course, making it possible to connect these small cells with high-speed connections, which are many sites today are connected with fiber. But if we go towards small cells, then, of course, we need to think this together, the 5G and the fiber deployment. So that's, I think, enough for the introduction, and then looking forward to the discussion later. Yeah, we're looking into this since quite a while. We launched the 5G PPP already in 2013, so there we also thought about use cases quite early in Europe. And as you might know, we also launched the 5G Observatory this year. It's an online platform, 5gobservatory.eu, where you can see what is happening in 5G, what are the trials, and what are the deployment announcements, and so on. Preparatory actions by the member states. But what is important now in context of this question is that you see a quite diverse set of things that are looked at. And we could group it in three main areas. Once, and I think Colin said it, I mean, is it the continuation of 4G? We have some challenges there, but that's, of course, the core business, which will continue, of course, to to focus also on the enhanced mobile broadband, where we'll have new opportunities. We will have gigabit speeds. If we move up to the millimeter wave, we will have 10 gigabit connections, which you can imagine new opportunities coming there. But indeed there we have a bit of the challenge on the monetization side, that we see the growth there. What we see in the last years is 1.5%, looking at it globally, but just as a ballpark figure in terms of growth of operator revenues. So there the question is then, what are the new opportunities of 5G? And one is, which we probably won't talk so much about here, is the fixed wireless access, which we see a lot in the US, but also in Europe there might be some opportunities, meaning that, okay, we don't see fiber everywhere immediately. As an intermediate step, we can cover the last meters with 5G connections to the rooftop, let's say, of the houses. And then maybe do some synergies and around the houses and some pedestrian hot zones based on 5G. That's one avenue, which is interesting. And then what we see as the big strategic opportunity in Europe is the verticals. So here it's also very diverse. So we think about the digital transformation of our economy, basically, meaning what are the key areas? Can be automotive, can be energy, utilities, health, you name it, where 5G can be a basis, as the connectivity basis to transform. So here this is maybe can be a bit local. So one of these cases can be local. You can think about smart cities, where you will go towards the small cells and have a good coverage for 5G to enable all kinds of smart city services. You can think about business parks and more connecting a production site, which is a bit more local, where of course you need fiber, but then it's just connecting the business park there and then rolling out 5G there. And then you have some cases where you have a huge infrastructure challenge, especially when we think about the transport paths. And there, of course, we also think along fiber and 5G, because you need to connect these transport paths with fiber and probably quite dense networks along these paths. And then, indeed, this could, I'm not sure, because this is quite a no-brainer, because there you don't have networks today. So you would just go and you need fiber and 5G there. And you don't have households, so many households around, except some synergies that for the villages that are maybe around these highways. So probably no cost assessment needed. It makes sense to do it together, to think it together. But there we will also see some new market structures, because it doesn't probably make sense to roll out 3-4 networks along these paths. There will be probably either a wholesale model, or you will see a sharing arrangement to get the infrastructure along these transport paths. So this short overview on the different areas of business cases and use cases, and yeah, happy to discuss it in more detail later.